The courtroom doors swing shut, but the allegations are, already echoing through Hollywood. A sacred family moment hijacked, a 6-hour car ride of terror, and a fight for a 3-year-old caught in the middle. And just like that, we have a new pop culture obsession.
Yeah, I mean, underneath the shock value of those tabloid headlines,
Mm.
we are looking at a story that really forces us to examine the, very dark mechanisms of power and manipulation behind closed doors.
Exactly. So welcome to the Starscope Report Deep Dive. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
Right. And today we are cutting through the noise of celebrity news outlets, places like TMZ, Us Weekly, OK Magazine, to look at the actual grueling California court documents. We're talking about the highly contentious custody battle between Rumer Willis and Derek Richard Thomas over their 3-year-old daughter, Louetta.
Yeah, we are taking those explosive claims made by Rumer and her family, examining Derek's fierce defense, and decoding the complex family laws from divorce.law and California courts that will ultimately decide a child's future. It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and our mission today is to really unpack the anatomy of control. We are going to look at the psychological tactics of isolation, how the legal system attempts to measure invisible abuse, and then later contrast this deeply toxic dynamic with a viral, highly relatable marriage confession.
Right, from music royalty, no less.
Yeah.
But let's set the scene for the main story, because understanding the mechanism of control requires looking at where it starts. The YouTube video title that sparked all of this is The Custody Battle Rumer Willis is Fighting and the Abuse She's Alleging.
Wow, yeah. So we're starting in April 2023. Rumer Willis is having a home birth.
Right, and a home birth is, designed to be this intimate, highly protected, physically vulnerable environment. But according to an explosive court declaration filed by Rumer's mother, Demi Moore, that environment was entirely hijacked.
Which is just wild to think about.
Uh-huh.
Demi claims that Derek, without asking, and without having even showered, got into the birthing tub in a really aggressive and sudden manner.
I mean, yeah, it sets such a tone. Because hijacking a vulnerable moment like childbirth, it establishes a very specific psychological baseline, right?
Absolutely. When we look at the clinical literature surrounding coercive control, targeting the immediate postpartum period isn't random. It rewires the victim's brain to understand that the abuser's emotional needs and their demand for attention supersede the victim's physical safety and medical needs.
Wow, that is so heavy.
It is. That's the foundational building block of establishing dominance.
So it's not just about being self-centered in the moment, it's about setting a precedent that there is no safe space, not even in a medical emergency. And Demi's account really reflects that.
Yeah, she states Rumer asked him to get out immediately, which he did, but he then allegedly spent the rest of the birth acting angry, pouting, and making the atmosphere super tense.
Right, and then, this part is just shocking, when Demi got her first moment to hold her newborn granddaughter, Derek suddenly whipped off his shirt, demanded skin-to-skin contact, and literally interrupted the grandmother's first connection with the child.
It's the disruption of outside bonding,
Oh.
But the most alarming detail in Demi's declaration is her claim that Derek refused to let Rumer swaddle baby Louetta when the newborn was clearly cold.
Wait, he wouldn't let her wrap up a cold baby.
Exactly. Again, looking at the mechanism here, dictating how a mother cares for a shivering newborn, overriding her maternal instinct, and the physical reality of the baby's temperature forces the mother into a state of submission.
God. And Rumer stated in her filings that she was in a fragile postpartum state, which abusers often exploit to test boundaries and, enforce compliance. And that enforcement allegedly extended directly to Rumer's support system, too.
Right, because Demi claims that when she and Rumer's sister, Scout, came over the next day simply to help clean the house, Derek was furious.
Mm.
He berated Rumer, complaining about her family being there without his permission.
Without his permission to clean their house.
Yeah, and he pressured her to isolate herself from them. And isolating a partner from their family is the most critical phase of coercive control.
Because if you can sever a victim's ties to external reality people who can say, hey, the way he is treating you isn't normal, the abuser becomes the sole arbiter of truth.
Precisely. Once that isolation is achieved, the psychological wear-down just accelerates. Rumer's filings outline a persistent pattern of emotional abuse that she says escalated into a daily occurrence.
Yeah, she describes being subjected to prolonged circular verbal attacks. And we aren't talking about a brief argument here. She alleges these attacks would sometimes last for up to 6 hours at a time.
6 hours, just think about
It's
that.
unbearable. Furthermore, she claims he would initiate these verbal assaults while they were trapped in a car with baby Louetta.
Right. Choosing a moving car for a verbal attack is a deliberate containment strategy. The victim physically cannot leave, and they can't call for help without escalating the situation in an enclosed, dangerous environment.
It sounds like being trapped in an emotional escape room where the rules keep changing, and you're just walking on eggshells to keep the peace.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Rumer stated she was constantly trying to keep the peace, while he would call her a liar or a bad girlfriend for no apparent reason. Over time, that completely erodes a person's cognitive function.
Because they spend all their energy anticipating the next attack rather than recognizing the absurdity of the current one, right? The psychological toll must be immense.
Huge. And then you layer in the allegations of negligence. While he allegedly demanded absolute control over Rumer and the environment, Rumer claims he was completely irresponsible when actually tasked with parenting.
Yeah, let's get into that. She alleges Derek was a chronic daily drug user, spending his savings on a music studio where he would smoke marijuana all day and come home clearly high.
Right. She detailed two terrifying incidents in November 2023 where his alleged impairment led to Louetta rolling off a couch and later falling off a bed.
And when Rumer panicked over the baby falling, she claims Derek made the incident entirely about his own hurt feelings rather than comforting the injured child.
The inability to decenter himself, even when an infant is harmed, speaks to a profound lack of empathy. Demi Moore bluntly stated in her documents that Derek sucks the joy out of all encounters and shows no care for anyone but himself.
But in a custody battle, there are always two sides. Wait until you hear Derek's defense and the shocking reason he claims Rumer is actually doing all of this.
Yeah, Derek is fiercely pushing back. He actually initiated the legal proceedings, filing for a parental relationship in July 2025 after Rumer moved with Louetta to Sun Valley, Idaho.
He vehemently denies all allegations of domestic violence, physical or emotional. His lawyer, Michael J. Kretzmer, released a statement calling Rumer's claims bombastic and dramatic, but lacking substance and factual support.
Right. Derek's official stance is that the relationship was unhealthy and came to a mutual end, but he insists he was never abusive or intimidating. He also flatly denies the drug claims.
Yeah, stating he is not a current marijuana user and that his past legal use never hindered his parenting. The crux of his defense is an aggressive counter-narrative.
Exactly. He claims there has never been a legitimate question raised about his parenting, stating Louetta has never suffered trauma in his care. Instead, he points to a specific catalyst for Rumer's allegations.
Right, the fiancé factor. Derek claims Rumer is simply enraged by the affection little Louetta shows toward Derek's new fiancée, Lizzie Locke.
He is essentially arguing that this entire legal war, the accusations of coercive control, the claims of drug use, the 14 months of alleged trauma for the baby, is entirely fabricated, fueled by a mother's jealousy over a new stepmother figure.
That is a staggering escalation, and it really sets the stage for a brutal legal showdown at the upcoming June 9, 2026 hearing.
Oh, definitely. Rumer is requesting primary physical custody and a formal 730 custody evaluation, which involves psychological testing and intense observation, while Derek is fighting for joint legal and physical custody.
And the outcome relies entirely on how the court interprets the evidence of abuse, right? Which brings up some dense California legal codes.
Yeah, looking at California Family Code Section 3044, if a judge finds that a parent has committed abuse within the last 5 years, it creates a rebuttable presumption against awarding joint custody to the abusive parent.
But I keep getting stuck on this one critical question. If emotional abuse leaves no bruises, how does a judge actually decide who is telling the truth? How do you verify a 6-hour argument in a moving car?
It feels like an impossible paradox, and it's one that the California family court system is actively struggling to reconcile. The legal framework has evolved, though.
Evolved how?
Well, under California Family Code Section 6203, abuse explicitly includes coercive control, which is defined as a pattern of behavior that unreasonably interferes with a person's free will. So isolating a partner from family or dictating daily activities legally qualifies as abuse.
Okay, so the law recognizes it, but proving it is where the system often fails victims. It sounds like custody evaluators are looking at a thermometer when they should be looking at a barometer.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Like, they are measuring the current heat of an angry, frustrated mother sitting in a mediation room rather than measuring the invisible crushing atmospheric pressure of the coercive control she has been living under for years.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the systemic blind spot. Official California courts literature, specifically a comprehensive review by Dr. Lori Sycophus, acknowledges this exact failure.
Really? They actually admit it.
Yes, they do. Evaluators frequently approach these cases from a family violence perspective, assuming conflict is just a normal, mutual part of a bad breakup, rather than recognizing a severe unilateral power imbalance.
Which means if you are a mediator and you see two people arguing over custody, you might just label them both toxic and recommend joint custody, completely missing the fact that one person has been systematically dismantling the other's reality.
Precisely. And Dr. Sycophus's research exposes a tragic irony at the heart of custody evaluations. The very trauma response required to survive an abuser, hypervigilance, defensive anger, hostility toward the threat, is the exact demeanor that family court systems use to penalize mothers.
That is so messed up.
It gets worse. If a mother comes across as hostile while trying to protect her child, evaluators are significantly more likely to dismiss her claims and award custody to the father. Evaluators are actually 4 times more likely to believe a mother's allegations if she presents as pleasant and agreeable.
That is deeply disturbing. You have to somehow sit in a courtroom, recount being trapped in a car for 6 hours while your partner psychologically tortures you, and present it with the poised, pleasant demeanor of someone discussing the weather.
Exactly. If you show the actual trauma, you lose your child. Meanwhile, the sociopathic abuser, who feels no anxiety because they are in control, appears calm and reasonable to the judge.
This is why third-party witnesses are the ultimate wild card in these proceedings. According to legal analysis from divorce.law, third-party declarations carry immense weight because they bypass the he said, she said gridlock.
Which brings us right back to Demi Moore. Rumer isn't just relying on her own testimony and hoping a mediator believes her.
Right. She has a sworn declaration from her mother detailing exactly the controlling behavior she personally witnessed in that birthing room. That external corroboration might be the exact evidence needed to trigger the Section 3044 presumption of abuse.
It definitely elevates the case from a private dispute to documented psychological manipulation. The temporary orders set at the upcoming hearing will establish the baseline for Louetta's immediate future, and it will be a major test of whether the family court system can accurately read the barometer of coercive control.
If you're fascinated by the hidden legal mechanisms behind these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, so hit that button.
We really do. And, we just spent significant time analyzing what happens when autonomy is systematically dismantled.
Right. We've talked about a relationship pushed to the absolute toxic brink. But later in the deep dive, we'll talk about a shocking marriage twist from music royalty that nobody saw coming, and it completely flips the script on relationship drama.
Yeah, it raises a natural question. What does it look like when 2 independent lives merge healthily? How do you tell the difference between toxic control and just the messy, frustrating reality of cohabitation?
There is a massive difference between coercive control and normal marital friction. And recently, Eminem's adopted daughter, Elena Scott, went completely viral for perfectly capturing what that healthy friction looks like.
Her commentary provides the perfect counterbalance to the Willis case. Elena married Matt Muller in Detroit in June 2023.
And a few months into the marriage, she made an appearance on her sister Haley Jade's podcast, A Little Shady.
Yeah, when asked how married life was going, Elena laughed and delivered a quote that instantly resonated with millions of people. She said, essentially, I think in a nutshell, marriage is like loving your partner more than you ever have, but then also like wanting to punch them in the face.
I mean, the collective sigh of relief from married couples on the internet was palpable when she said that. She verbalized the taboo reality that intense love and intense annoyance can and do coexist simultaneously.
She totally did. She elaborated on the absolute mundane frustration of living with another human being. She talked about the annoyance of a partner who just doesn't put the dishes where you want them or leaves things out constantly.
But she followed up her joke with some genuinely profound insight. She said the key to not killing each other is maintaining your own time, your own separate hobbies, and your own distinct identity.
And the mechanism of a healthy relationship is defined by the freedom to maintain that identity. If we contrast Elena's marriage with the allegations in the Willis case, it is night and day.
Completely. It's the difference between a pressure cooker with a release valve and a pressure cooker that's been sealed shut.
Exactly. Elena is talking about the release valve. She has the freedom to be incredibly frustrated with her partner, to express that frustration safely, to laugh about it publicly, and to retreat into her own independence when needed.
Right, whereas coercive control is the systematic destruction of that exact independence. In Alina's marriage, you annoy me with the dishes, I love you, I'm gonna go do my hobby now and decompress.
Yeah, and in Rumer's allegations, the pressure cooker was welded shut. You aren't allowed a hobby. You aren't allowed to complain about the dishes. You are trapped in a car for 6 hours, and you aren't allowed to speak to your mother.
That analogy perfectly illustrates why Alina's clip went viral. Healthy relationships are not devoid of conflict. Annoyance is just inevitable when two lives merge.
But in a healthy dynamic, that friction does not threaten your safety or your autonomy. You can laugh about it on a podcast. In an abusive dynamic, minor annoyances are weaponized as excuses to control your behavior.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next as we continue to connect the dots across pop culture.
Definitely. Because whether you are navigating the complexities of co-parenting, learning to set boundaries in your own home, or just trying to figure out why your spouse puts the dishes in the wrong cabinet, these stories really hit home.
They remind you that fame doesn't shield anyone from the messy reality of human relationships. We started today looking at a broken diagnostic machine, the family court system, trying to find visible fractures in an emotional landscape that is incredibly murky.
And as the legal system slowly evolves to recognize invisible scars like coercive control, it raises a fascinating question for you to ponder. Will we soon see a culture where emotional abuse is treated with the exact same criminal weight as physical violence?
That is a powerful thought.
And if so, how will that redefine the way we all date, marry, and divorce?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.